Peer-to-peer, free trade, in excess energy households and businesses that generate their own power through micro-renewables, such as solar panels and wind turbines, may soon be able to decide where to distribute their extra energy thanks to funding from the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council (EPSRC). The UK has seen an increase in the uptake of microgeneration, in which individuals or organizations install their own small-scale, renewables-based energy generators to produce and use energy. These technologies will play a significant role in the UK meeting its carbon emissions targets and decarbonising its economy in line with the government's clean growth strategy. Currently, in the UK, the household generators must sell the excess of their production back to the national grid at a set price. However, now computer scientists at the University of Bristol are using a £460,000 grant from the EPSRC to research free trade between micro-generators in a peer-to-peer energy market. In such a peer-to-peer energy market (P2P), any two individuals, households can directly buy from and sell to each other, without intermediating utilities or other third parties. The key aim of the Household Supplier Energy Market project is to research the feasibility of a democratized P2P energy market. Dr. Ruzana Chichian, who leads the project, said, "Perhaps you have installed some solar panels and you would much rather contribute your excess generation free of charge to the nearby homeless shelter instead of selling it back to the utility provider. Or sell it to someone else at a better price or give it to your neighbor. The households that produce the energy should have the power to decide on what to do with it. Similarly, consumers should be able to decide whose energy and at what price they want to buy. The HOSM trading platform will support this freedom of choice." Similar, sharing platforms are already in place in other markets, for example via Airbnb in the hotel industry, or Uber in taxi hire, though both of these still impose substantial centralization and intermediation charges. The Bristol research will look at whether the infrastructure for P2P energy trading is technically feasible, who will provide it, what will be the role of the current major power producers in such a market, whether supply continuity can be ensured under the fluctuating generation imposed by the nature of the renewable energy sources, what regulatory changes are necessary for this market to function, what mechanisms, including cybersecurity and privacy approaches, are needed to engender trust in such a market. EDF Energy is the industrial partner in this project and is currently testing the concept of peer-to-peer trading between households as part of a trial within a block of flats in London. Universities of Exeter and Leicester are the other partners on HOSM project. Exeter researchers are looking at what factors will encourage households, groups to join this peer-to-peer market, while Leicester researchers are taking an algorithmic and game-theoretic view on the peer-to-peer trading. Jim Fleming, EPSRC's head of energy, said, "As we move to a low-carbon society, we need to make the most of the energy generated by all producers, large or small. This project will look at the technical challenges that need to be overcome to implement a peer-to-peer energy trading system. If successful, it will bring power from the people to the people." To enable such a P2P energy market, the project is developing a technical platform to support P2P household-level energy trading. 1.2. This will give market participants read and write access to the records for the production, sale and purchase of energy at low cost per transaction. Each transaction must be accurately recorded, verifiable and secured to guarantee accurate assignment of rights and responsibilities for trades and billing, allowing equal access to all interested participants. The distributed ledger technology could uniquely meet the domain requirements for the decentralized distributed energy systems, providing an ideal technical tool for such a platform, if the households were to trust the platform providers, and were willing to join this market. The ledgers could also be available to third-party businesses that wish to provide new value-added services to the energy market. First, reputation-based blockchain guarantees security against 51% attacks. Researchers at the University of Luxembourg are part of an international team that has proposed the first blockchain system to guarantee proper performance even when more than 51% of the system's computing power is controlled by an attacker. The system, RepuCoin, introduces the concept of reputation to blockchain, effectively making it thousands of times more expensive to attack than Bitcoin. It was developed at the university's Interdisciplinary Center for Security, Reliability and Trust, and has the potential to be applied in a number of global sectors including fintech, energy, food supply chains, healthcare and future 5G telecommunications networks. One of the main advantages of blockchain-based systems, such as Bitcoin, is that the whole network sees and approves changes to data through democratic consensus. Users don't have to place their trust and money in the hands of a single central authority. However, to achieve this, existing systems equate a miner's computational power used for mining new blocks with their voting power, used to decide which blocks of transactions to commit to the ledger. This gives rise to an inherent weakness. As soon as one miner controls over 50% of the system's computational power he also controls the voting power, the system effectively ceases to be decentralized. That miner could reject blocks proposed by competing miners, prevent selected transactions from being added to blocks and even replace blocks that were already on the ledger. To solve this, RepuCoin calculates voting power according to a miner's reputation. Unlike social reputation, this is a strictly mathematical quality which accumulates through consistent and honest mining over long periods, like charging a battery before it can be used. It makes RepuCoin the first such system to be resilient against miners holding 51% or more of the network's computing resources. Lead researcher Dr. Zhongshan Yu, previously at the university's Interdisciplinary Center for Security, Reliability and Trust and now a lecturer at Monash University, Australia, says, "We have already seen mining pools such as Gash.io surpass the 50% threshold on Bitcoin. Just as worryingly, it's now possible for hackers to rent this kind of computational power in a matter of seconds, allowing them to conduct flash attacks." RepuCoin is the only type of blockchain currently on the market that can withstand such attacks. Attacking RepuCoin with 68% of the system's total mining power would take at least 6 months once the system has been running for a year, and would be at least 5,760 times as expensive as conducting the same attack on Bitcoin. And because of the way reputation accumulates, the longer RepuCoin runs, the more resilient it is to attack. For example, when the system has been in secure operation for only 3 months, an attacker would need to harness 90% of the overall computing power for a further month to behave maliciously. Co-author Professor Paulo Esteves Verissimo, who leads Essence work in critical and extreme security and dependability, says, "It's an elegant solution to a problem that many thought was insoluble." Existing systems always linked computational power to voting power. We separated them, and now someone could join RepuCoin with 99% of the total computing power and they still wouldn't be able to attack it. Identifying friends in an objective manner in recent years, behavioral patterns of social creatures, such as humans, cattle, ants, etc., have been discovered by using wearable sensors called radio frequency identification (RFID) devices. The Sociopatterns project led by Dr. Alon Barrett and colleagues has made public the dataset of contact records of individual pairs collected by RFID devices. However, since the RFID datasets contain any kind of contacts between individuals, they can include non-essential contacts that are observed merely by chance, as opposed to intentional events such as conversation among close friends. Dr. Teruyoshi Kobayashi of Kobe University and his team developed a new method for identifying individuals that have essential connections between them, what they call significant ties. Dr. Kobayashi says, "The point is that we need to distinguish between the contact events that could happen by chance and the events that would not happen without a significant relationship between two individuals." Their findings were published in Nature Communications on January 15. Naturally, the total number of contacts recorded will be larger for those who are socially very active than for those who are shy. This means that counting the numbers of bilateral interactions is not enough to find friends in social networks. The new method proposed by Dr. Kobayashi and his team allows one to control for the difference in individuals' activity levels. Interestingly, the extracted significant ties based on face-to-face networks collected in a primary school in Lyon, France form several clusters, each of which accurately mimics an actual school class. Dr. Kobayashi comments, "It is quite natural that contacts within each class explain most of the significant ties, but this phenomenon is not well captured by the existing methods that were originally developed for static networks." An advantage of this method is that it can be applied to any kind of dynamic networks formed by bilateral temporal interactions. For example, Dr. Kobayashi and Dr. Taro Takaguchi, one of the co-authors, investigated the interbank market in Italy and confirmed that the fraction of banks that are regarded as being connected by significant ties increased, particularly at the time of the global financial crisis in 2008-2009. On the possibility of future application, Dr. Kobayashi adds, this method is expected to capture the evolution of various complex networks from interbank markets to a flock of cows. If it's implemented on a face-to-face network of students, for instance, one may be able to detect signs of bullying and/or ostracism. Environmental protection in outer space? On Earth, environmental protection has the primary goal of ensuring the availability of clean water and clean air for human beings in the future. Human interests usually take also precedent when it comes to protecting more developed animals and plants. Lower life forms such as bacteria, on the other hand, are considered worthy of protection only in exceptional cases. Claudius Gross, professor for theoretical physics at Goethe University, has now investigated the degree to which the norms for the protection of planets can be derived analogously from issues that arise in environmental protection on Earth. The international COSPAR agreements on space research stipulate that space missions must ensure that any existing life, such as possibly on the Jupiter moon Europa, or traces of previous life forms, perhaps on Mars, are not polluted, so that they remain intact for scientific purposes. The protection of extraterrestrial life as valuable in and of itself is not stipulated. The COSPAR guidelines apply to our solar system. But to which extent should they be applied to planetary systems beyond our solar system, exoplanets? This will become a relevant issue with the advent of launch pads for miniature interstellar space probes, such as of the type in development by the Breakthrough Starshot initiative. Gross argues that the protection of exoplanets for the use of humankind could not be justified. Apart from flybys, we could carry out scientific studies only with space probes able to slow down in an alien solar system. Using the best technology available today, this would require magnetic sails and missions lasting thousands of years, at the least. According to Gross, the protection of exoplanets would also be irrelevant if these planets were lifeless, even if they were otherwise habitable. This probably includes planet systems such as the TRAPPIST-1 system, whose central star is an M-dwarf star. Planets orbiting in the habitable zone of an M-dwarf star have a dense oxygen atmosphere that was formed through physical processes before cooling. Whether life can develop on such planets is questionable. Free oxygen acts corrosively on prebiotic reaction cycles, which are considered prerequisites for the origin of life. Whether there is another way for life to form on these oxygen planets is an open question at this time, says Gross. If not, we would find ourselves living in a universe in which most of the habitable planets are lifeless, and thus suitable for settlement by terrestrial life forms, he adds.